Namaste and welcome. If we are to know what we truly are, we must know where we have come from. And what we truly are is exposed to us within ourselves. Where we've come from also, the same trail. We need to know what and who is God. And then when we bring up God, there's always so many thoughts about what and who is the devil. So let's delve into these ones right now. You see, for God to be God, God would have to be that which is eternal, everlasting, ever present. If God is eternal, then there can be nothing outside of God. If God is eternal, there can be nothing inside of God that is not God. Everything would have to be God for God to be eternal. Otherwise, if there is something that is not God present, then God is no longer eternal. So, in other words, God is beyond time. God is not confined by time. And God ultimately can't be mind because time is mind. Try the experiment for yourself. Remove the mind, can there be time? No time, no mind. So God is beyond time. God would also have to be beyond space, beyond the concept of simply spaces. There can be only one space, and that space would have to be God. God would have to contain and be that very space. There can be nothing inside of God that is not God. There can be nothing outside of God that is not God. So when we come to this understanding that God is eternal, we want to ask the question, when is eternity? Well, eternity can't be yesterday, and eternity can't be tomorrow. Eternity can only be now. The eternal God is always now. God is not the past or the future. You see, the past is when now was. The present is now. And the future is when now will be. Nonetheless, all of experience, all of reality takes place within the now moment. So what we know now is that God is present. You see, presence is the very medium in which we can experience God. Let me explain a little bit more. It says in the scriptures that God is love. Well, what is love? We need to understand what that is if God is love. What we know is that God is eternal, God is infinite, and eternity and the infinite realm is here and now. So we get a little bit of insight as to what love is when we ask that question, what is love? And if God is love, then love would have to be presence. You see, love is not a thing or an action. Love is presence. Many times you can ask a mother to remember the time in which she held her child for the first time after the birth. You ask them, how much love did you feel? They always say, I felt so much love like I've never felt before. And I ask them and say, what did that child do to make you feel all that love? To which they're like, nothing. You see, that child didn't do anything for the mother to love it. That child was a package of pure presence. The child has not been programmed or conditioned yet. It is simply a pure presence. It is closer to God. It is more God-like than most human beings because we've been so conditioned and so programmed. But this baby simply is presence itself. And what happens is it ignites that knowledge within the system, within the mother. It ignites presence within her. And that's what we call love. Love is the pure sensation of presence. Love is the experiencing of presence. Again, try this as an experiment for yourself. You know that when someone is with you and present to you, you feel love. But if someone is physically there and not present to you, you don't feel love. Love is presence. Love is eternal and infinite. And when we look at this very practical understanding, God would have to be present because God is love and God is infinite. And they are the two things that are defining of presence. Then you could ask the question, how do I love myself? Again, by being present, being purely here in this moment, without bringing any of the past into it. Being purely here in this moment without bringing any of the future into this moment, without defiling its purity, is how you love yourself. Because when you can be present to yourself, you are giving love to yourself. When you are present to God, you are still giving love to yourself. Because if you notice, being present to yourself is love, being present to God is love, and that is all one thing. You realize you are God. You cannot be separated from God. You have dropped the small I and fallen into the depths and expansion of the I am, the name of God for eternity. You see, you can say I was, but that's in the past. You can say I will be, and that is in the future. But I am is the potency of this now moment. That's why it is called the name of God. When we understand the journey to God, to enlightenment, to spirituality, it is always a journey to the true self, to the depth of what and who we are. And so now the question is, who or what is the devil? Well, the devil is basically the ego, because the ego does not exist. The ego is simply the mind in its functioning, in its actions. The ego is full and made of thoughts, but you cannot be the ego itself. Here's why. Here's another experiment. Go into this for yourself. You can't be your thoughts yourself, because when a thought comes, does that mean a piece of you has arrived? When a thought goes, does that mean a piece of you has disappeared? Of course not. You are the witness to those thoughts, and the witness is God. Thoughts are what build the ego. There's nothing wrong with thoughts, but when we identify with our thoughts, we have become an egoist. We identify with our thoughts as ourselves. We are no longer seeing our divine truth. You see, the devil, just like the ego, can't be present. The ego can't be present because it is made of mind. It is made of time. And time is not present. Presence is now. It cannot be timed. It can be not known as time. It is the divine space. But the ego cannot fathom presence. Try it again for yourself. When you land into a very present state where you're not allowing yourself to be identified with your thoughts, you then become very present and the ego disappears. Same happens with the devil. The devil wants to always keep taking you into the past or into the future. Again, the devil and the ego are just the same thing. When Jesus was taken into the wilderness by the Spirit, after 40 days of fasting, he was then tempted by the devil. You could say he was tempted by his ego. That's what's going to happen. The ego is all about survival. He's been fasting for 40 days and 40 nights. And then along comes the ego to question everything you're doing. Oh, well, if you're the Son of God, then you could turn these stones into bread. Same question gets asked of us. Oh, well, if you're worthy, then people would give those things to you. If people truly like you, they would listen to you. The devil, the ego, whatever you want to call it, lies to us all the time. All we need to do is become very present, and then the lies of the devil, the lies of the ego are extinguished. The devil and the ego cannot stand presence. Presence is the very power of God. Presence is the very power of God because presence is love. But the past and the future are the robbers of our divinity. We can see that in the story of Christ on the cross. There is an account of where there were two robbers crucified beside Christ. One robber was mocking Jesus. The second robber said, "Will I be with you in the future? Will I be with you in paradise?" You see, the robbers are pictures of the past and the future. The past mocks us, and the ego comes in to mock us, to remind us of our shortcomings. And the future is full of desire. Just like the robber, will I be with you in paradise? But just not present to what is. And here's Christ in the middle, in the moment, forgiving all, loving all, present to all. You see, the ego wants to keep us distracted from what is. And what is you. You are that you are, just like God said, I am that I am. When we allow ourselves to be spontaneous in life, we are present to life. When we allow ourselves to be fresh in the moment, we are present to life. When you look at all of nature, it does what it does in the present moment. Only the human being knows how to be unnatural, whereas nature knows how to be present. A flower does not concern itself as to whether it's going to get to bloom and give its fragrance or not. In fact, a flower doesn't even know what it is doing. It is just growing in the moment. It is present to the moment, and then all of a sudden, magic happens. A miracle takes place, and this flower gives its fragrance. It knows nothing that it had a fragrance. It is simply being what it is. It is expressing what it is in the moment, and then that beautiful miracle takes place. And that's what can happen in our lives. If we can just be present to the moment in its purity, then we are purified. And then we all of a sudden, like a flash of lightning, we open up and realization comes in of a new understanding of the depth of our truth. We have everything to share and nothing to prove. But as for the ego, it only wants to prove because it has nothing to share. The soul is the essence of our being, and God is that which we can attain by knowing that it is that which we are. Again, it is that which we are, not what we will be. You are already it. God is what you are. The devil or the ego is what you are not. When you are present, you are in the divine. Let there be light.